The Cooper Carbine versus STG44, the two most used assault rifles within Warzone. We're going to figure out which one is better by looking at their stats in depth. I'll tell you which one is the better sniper support and which one is the better long-range assault rifle. Then I'll give you the best class setups for each weapon. Welcome back, I'm Austin, and let's start by going over the fire rate. The Cooper will have a much better base fire rate with 803 rounds per minute to 600. However, when we add on attachments to my class setups, they'll both change, but we'll get into that in a bit. The faster fire rate is a huge help to the Cooper because it makes it much more forgiving, and let's switch over to see how much damage these weapons do. And the STG is going to have a big advantage in average damage at every single range with an impressive 36.6 at close range. The STG has to make up for the slower fire rate with higher damage to help the TTK be competitive against the Cooper. At long range, the advantage gets about 10% bigger, but what are the base ranges for these weapons when the damage falls off? The STG once again is going to be better with 31 meters to 28. This is fairly helpful to boost the STG because once we stack on attachments, this disparity will grow. What I mean by this is attachments don't add 5 meters of range, they add a percentage to the range, and the bigger the base number, the more the attachment will affect it, therefore helping the STG out. Let's take a look at the sniper support time to kills with chest shots first. I'm going to be using True Game Data's website, it will be linked in the description, and these time to kills are with 300 health, which was just recently changed to be the max health in Warzone. So I have the MP40 in comparison to these assault rifles because we are going to be using them up close and having to compete with SMGs. You're going to see that the MP40 will still be the fastest time to kill at 726 milliseconds, whereas the Cooper Carbine is just slightly behind at 754. That's still really competitive, but you're going to have much better range as you can tell by this chart. Now the STG will definitely fall behind a little bit with about 54 milliseconds slower time to kill than the Cooper, but on this setup it has amazing range. You're going to get that out to 43 meters, and you can see the time to kill is going to be drastically better between 22.4 to 43 meters, and the MP40 of course is going to outduel them inside of 11 meters. These are definitely really competitive TTKs. The STG you're not going to be using too much past the 43 meters as a sniper support. Right there, that's going to be 909 milliseconds, whereas the Cooper falls down even worse than the STG to a considerable 928 milliseconds. So the Cooper is going to be far superior inside of 23 meters over the STG, but the STG will give you about twice the range and a better time to kill after that initial range. So there's a little bit of a give and take between these two. One last thing I want to show off on these sniper sports is if you're getting all stomach and limb shots, their TTKs do fall off, with the Cooper going to about 812 milliseconds, which is the STG's original TTK, but the STG will fall all the way to 909 milliseconds, whereas the MP40 you can see is a lot more forgiving because you still have the same TTK at 726 milliseconds. So we're going to get into their recoil patterns in a little bit to show how easy it is to be hitting these chest shots. Alright, next time I'm going to do the TTKs of the long range builds, and I actually have two STG builds here where the blue line is going to be the 45 round mag and the pink line is going to be the 50 round mag. Now what are the differences between those two? The 50 round mag is going to be more accurate than the 45 round mag, but the 45 round mag has higher damage. Let's look at the TTKs. The Cooper and the 45 round STG actually will have the same TTK at 851 milliseconds, but as you can see, we still have double the range of 22.5 meters to 43. With the pink STG, the 50 round mag, the TTK is going to tremendously fall off to 984. So that's actually 130 milliseconds slower, and then we're only going to have 25 meters of range on that instead of 43 on this other STG. And the other thing that happens is the bullet velocity will be about 400 less on the 50 round mag. So that's a pretty big fall off there just to get better accuracy. Now if we take a look at the Cooper's long range TTK, it's over a second, 1.046. Now if we look at the STG at long range, which has a much better range to begin with, we're going to have 957 milliseconds. So as you can see, the TTK is going to be tremendously better with the 45 round STG. With all the talk of recoil, we have to discuss how it affects their time to kills. The slower the fire rate, the more guns are affected by missing shots, and you can tell that just from the TTK drop off of adding one more bullet to kill. With the STG44, it's going to add 100 milliseconds to its TTK, while the Cooper only adds 75 milliseconds for every extra shot, making it 25 milliseconds more forgiving. That is a sizable difference and one to definitely consider when choosing between these weapons. Now let's actually compare the recoil patterns of their sniper support and long range setups. I'll start with the sniper supports, and the Cooper Carbine is ridiculously accurate. It makes no sense when I have this thing cranked up to over 1,050 rounds per minute and it doesn't move. It's insane. Now the STG is all vertical recoil and still really easy to control, but the Cooper without a doubt will have less recoil. The same thing will hold true with their long range setups. However, I would like to compare the STG with the 45 and 50 round mag. The 45 round one, as you remember, has the faster time to kill and the higher damage, and it's supposed to have higher recoil, but they're almost identical in the recoil pattern. There's a tad of horizontal recoil with the 45 round one, but you get a much faster time to kill, 18 more meters of range, and 400 more bullet velocity. I think that's a good trade-off. The 45 round magazine is superior on the STG44. Let's take a look at the max bullet velocity, and they're gonna actually be tied with 1,254 meters per second. These are fantastic velocities. However, on the best long range builds, only the STG can reach this because the Cooper's TTK will be hurt tremendously if we build it out for max bullet velocity. While they are tied for the max, the STG will have the advantage in this category and feel hit scan out to 100 meters. Taking a look at damage per mag at close and long range, the Cooper wins close and the STG wins at long range. 1800 to 1710 and 1305 to 1200. These are with the 60 and 45 round mags respectively. These are low at long range but good up close. Quads will definitely be a problem with the STG and especially the Cooper at long range, but trios and below will be no problem. Switching over to the damage per second at close range with the sniper support builds, the Cooper wins with 397 to 357, which are both fantastic for assault rifles and very competitive against subs. Going to the long range damage per second with the long range builds, the STG wins by a little with 292 to 276. These are both solid and nothing to sneeze at. Finally, going over to the movement stats, the STG is going to be better with ADS and movement, while the Cooper will be better with ADS movement. Then they're going to be identical in sprint to fire time. The movement and ADS are key advantages for the STG up close, because at close range, being able to get on target and move quickly is super important to how the weapon will perform. However, its ADS movement does get obliterated, which isn't good when the hip fire is going to be bad, and you need to be aimed down sight. Overall, these weapons come out similar here, and it just affects how we have to build the weapons in the setup. Make sure to subscribe, then you can get notified when more Warzone videos are released. I've given you the information, and it's time for my verdict on which weapon is better. The Cooper has sniper support, and the STG for long range if you can manage the vertical recoil, which I think is fairly easy. The Cooper's versatility while still having a really fast time to kill up close to compete with top-end SMGs makes it better as a sniper support. You will have zero issues hitting your shots, and it's super forgiving with its over 1,000 rounds per minute on the setup. The damage per mag is definitely going to be an issue within quads with 300 health, but you should have zero problems in trios and below. This might be the easiest weapon to use. Now the STG's amazing range is one of its big benefits, and its good ADS and movement are a nice benefit to help you lock onto target before your enemy. I also find the STG to be great at chunking away the enemy's health at range to get them playing defensively. The STG is going to have better time to kills than other popular choices at long range like the Cooper, Automaton, and DP27. The STG has the upside to be great if you can aim it accurately. My build tried to eliminate any horizontal recoil, making it easier to handle, and let's jump straight into these best class setups. So first we're going to start with the Cooper Carbine Sniper Sport setup, and what we got here is 4 attachments boosting its fire rate, which is what gives it the really good time to kill up close. We are going to show up on the mini-map, but I really do think it's worth it. We got the recoil booster, the Cooper Custom, which not only helps the fire rate, it helps the accuracy. Then we got the 60 round drum and the compressed rounds, and this is what makes the gun have such a fast time to kill. Now we're going to have 2 attachments geared towards the accuracy, which is going to be the hand stop and then the tight grip perk. Now we're going to have an extra 2 attachments geared towards its movement, which is going to be fabric grip and remove stock. This way you're still getting some solid movement on it, as well as getting it to be really accurate, as you saw from the recoil pattern earlier. And then I have fully loaded on, but you can switch up to the on hand because this thing only says it gives you equipment dexterity, but it actually also increases your ADS by 5%. So if you want to do that, go for it. I just think the ammo is really important on this thing because it does kind of evaporate quickly. So if you're going to your loadout and you don't have max AR ammo, you're going to be kind of screwed. Now we're going to go to the STG long range class setup, and the first thing we're going to do is get the max bullet velocity of 1,254 meters per second. We do that by using the VDD 760 barrel, then the Russian short 45 round mag, and the lengthened ammunition. Now this thing's going to be hit scan out to over 100 meters, which is super important on long range weapons. Now everything else is pretty much going to be geared towards making the weapon more accurate, because that Russian short mag does add some hefty vertical recoil, but we're actually going to make this gun insanely accurate still. So first off, you got to use the MX silencer and the 3-6 scope. These are both going to lower the vertical recoil by 5%, as well as the horizontal recoil by 5%. Now we got the stock and the pine tar grip, which is actually better than the polymer grip. It just has the con of adding 8 milliseconds to your ADS, but I think that's totally worth it because we actually double the vertical recoil control we get with the pine tar grip over the polymer. Now, if you want to fix that added ADS, you can actually switch your perk from fully loaded to on hand, which I still like fully loaded more, but on hand is going to completely eliminate the ADS added from the pine tar grip, so I'll leave that on there for now. And then of course we got the hand stop grip, the classic underbarrel for long range weapons. This thing is still going to be pretty accurate while having a really good TTK at long range in the 300 health game mode. And if you want to see what SMG to pair with this, I got a video linked right here. Peace.